Hey YouTube, I'm back. It's finally finished. This is gonna be a huge update. I've been coding like a maniac for the past week. Version 2, I feel like, is what version 1 was meant to be. And it all started with this cool little idea I had. It seemed like a big challenge. I knew basically nothing at the time. But day by day, I just kept sticking to it. I encountered a lot of hurdles, a lot of challenging problems. I just kept my patience in each problem. Even I worked through it, and I ended up having more features and learning way more things in the end. So if you get stuck, don't give up because it's worth it. You end up with a much better outcome in the end. The patience really pays off. And I know it's taken a little longer than I expected, but that's gonna save a lot of issues that'll probably come up from you guys. Like, I was coding off an older Applio version, and so whenever I'm getting ready to finish the program, I install it on a different computer, and I realized, wait a minute, it's not working. Applio version was not up to date. So make sure your Applio versions are up to date. And I think it is 3.2.5 currently, but I will try to keep things up to date on this. And this is all your fault, Mr. Premium. I was reading your comments on YouTube, and a couple of you said you wanted a way to keep the conversation and have like a chat history. And I feel like that's like a given. That's like a must have. It has to be part of the program. So I was like, oh man, I gotta get this feature implemented. And a while back, I promised myself if I ever learned how to interact with the Applio API directly, I was gonna go all out and build version 2. So, you know, I happened to be looking around. I updated Applio, and at the bottom here it says use via API. And I checked this last time, and they didn't tell me how to do it. But I checked it again, and what do you know? They tell you how to do it now. Right here. Run the TTS script. And I was like, yes! I can finally finish this thing. So, thanks to you, Mr. Premium, but also Spaztastic and Roar Stays. I read your comment about using Whisper, and I thought, you know what, I'll add that in too. I actually didn't use faster Whisper, I just used regular Whisper. It's actually really good still. And that was really challenging getting that implemented. And I started this with no skill, and it's 2 days in, I found out about this website called ChatGPT Free Online. I started using this a bit, and like this really helped me so much. I don't truly think this is a real ChatGPT, because these, as I was using this, eventually, you know, it's not reliable. It stopped sending me replies back, and I have some other ones that I try to use now. But when I first made my first version of the program, I wasn't using the AI at all. That's a big mistake. That's why it took me so long to build the first one. If I hadn't have been using these platforms, this would have taken easily 2 to 3 weeks probably from someone just using Google searches. Like Google searches are like so bad now. So and I'm like, how are they running the ChatGPT? I think 4, whatever they're claiming it is. Yeah, 4 for free. And then I opened up LM Studio again and start digging around, and the Meta Llama 3.1 is out, and there's all these new models. The Meta Llama 3.1 is actually so incredible. It's almost as good as GPT-4. And I have a feeling that they're not even using ChatGPT-4. They're using Meta Llama. So what do? I went and downloaded some of these coding packages or models. So I started using Replete Coder version 2, Llama 3.1, and it feels like it's the same as this. It's so good. I highly recommend that. Like, I wouldn't be done this by now if it wasn't for the help with the AI. Like, it's incredible the time we live in right now. You don't have to let your ideas just be ideas anymore. Like, you literally have, like, you have a university professor communicating back to you. Like, it's incredible what we have today. Like, what a time to be alive. So anyways, back to the program. Let's see. I just got it uploaded to GitHub. It's still set private at the moment. So you're gonna have your files here. I made some icons for it. So I used the AI to generate these. So you can set up a little custom icon for it. But so the first thing you want to do when you set this up, so I'll open up the requirements here. You're going to want the latest version of Applio. And then when you run the setup.bat, it's going to run through and install these packages. And now at the bottom here, where it gets to Torch, this is what's needed for Whisper. It actually can use your GPU to transcribe your voice, and it works pretty good. But it needs the Torch CUDA version, and the CUDA, like, so if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, you'll be able to use it with the CUDA cores. You have to download the CUDA version of Torch, and so I think only this link at the bottom here is necessary, but I added these ones in. It works like this. But if you don't have an NVIDIA graphics card and you're going to use CPU, you want to erase these links right off. And then you just want to install that. And another thing I should mention, if you're downloading the CUDA version, it's going to be like 5.5 gigabyte on your hard drive. So for the virtual environment, it's quite big. So you can technically run it out of a code editor and install your packages to your system so you can use it system wide. But I do like it having all contained in a virtual environment. It's nice. So once you install that, here, so I got this little ASCII logo thing. If you want to know how to do that, there's a website somewhere in here. Image to ASCII art. That's pretty cool. I just have it print out. When it launches, you'll have some messages here. So like current working directory, you can double check the Python version. It should work with a lot of different versions, but if you encounter problems installing it, you might be able to tweak some of these versions. You shouldn't need to. You might run into a building wheel error. If you run into that, then you might need to install. I have a lot of information in the README. You might need to install CMake. CMake, you might need some of the Visual Studio build tools. I think the C++, anything to do with those libraries, that might resolve it. I think there is a way to have the virtual environment do all that for you. I seen Applio. When I reinstalled Applio, their installation was nice. And if I look in their requirements, I don't know if someone knows how to do that. See, they have this wheel thing, core dependencies, so they install the wheel first somehow. I'm sorry, I don't know how to do that quite yet. Maybe I could just copy and paste that in. I don't know. But that's what you do if you encounter those issues. So this is how it looks now. It's so much better. There's so much more to this. And it's thanks to every like challenging hurdle I encountered. And I was almost finished like multiple times. And then I was like, no, wait, I should add more and add this. And if I was to finish it sooner, it wouldn't be this good. If you encounter hurdles, don't let that stop you. It's actually a good thing.
Voice 1.
Now you can hear the voice play back to you, but when you're
Voice
selecting the voices, voice selection, chat history as requested, turn that on. When you turn it off, it'll erase the history from the program. I don't think it'll actually erase it from LM Studio though. You'd have to reset the server. And so I'm gonna run the Llama 3.1 instruct. The Llama 3 models are amazing. It's almost like ChatGPT-4. It's very close. We got, what else the stream function. So now the basic Windows TTS, it'll stream back the response faster to you. There's a little bit of delay because one of the problems I encountered with PyTTS X3 is when it does the playback, you can't interrupt it. There's no way to like interrupt that. And I tried so many things to try to interrupt it. And like, yeah, multi-processing kind of worked, but it, like, you have to kill the process and they say, oh, you shouldn't do that. And I found a workaround. And the way I did that, and this was part of the other program, but I never explained it, is I created, after editing the string, I split the string into a list at every period, but I also turned the commas into periods too. and then I split it at a period. So every time there's a comma and a period, it'll split into a list. So then I have a for loop, and it will play back to me each item in the list at a time. And that way, if I say stop, it'll stop in between each item in the list, because there's no way you can stop it while it's running. I tried looking in all their documentation, but this way seemed like a pretty good workaround if anyone was interested in that. And I kind of want to explain a little bit about the code and the challenges. Like, I think some of you will be interested. Some of you probably just want to download it and click away. That's all fine. Just be sure to like and subscribe, give me a bit of support. Let's see what else. Applio TTS now it'll directly communicate with Applio, and I've been dying to have it do this, because having it connect through the browser and using PyAuto GUI was so janky. I hated that, but it was cool learning how to do that. But now I bet you it doesn't work, because their latest update added in the speed bar here, so now it wouldn't even tab properly. It's gonna be a pain constantly dealing with that. Yeah, my repository is here. It's not public yet. Let's see what else added for Applio in the Applio section here. The TTS speed, the response speed, and I turned all this stuff into sliders now, so you don't have to type in anything. Your voice model index file. You can set your own defaults up if you go into the GUI section and scroll down. Right here, I added some notation. You can just get rid of those, and you type in your model and your index files right in here. Just, you would have to unnote them. That. Then it'll load in your default or your username. You can set your default username right here. These here, that's gonna be for LM Studio. I haven't messed with these much yet, but supposedly can really change up how LM Studio is gonna reply back, how creative it is. So we got the speed, I added in pitch. That's really nice. And Applio has been doing updates. They've been adding even more stuff in here. And if you saw when I was in here, they added this F-Zero auto-tune. You're like, what if it could sing to you? So I added the auto-tune button here, the auto-tune switch to turn it on and off. And I tried it, but it doesn't seem to work. And so there was another update, and then when I was setting it up on my other computer, it stopped working, and they changed the variables. They changed this one. They added these underscores in here, some of them, to make them clearer to read. So I updated all that. But then they added this F-Zero file handle, or F-Zero file. And I think that's the file that is used for the auto-tune. And they mentioned down in here the F-Zero file. the F0 curve that represents the variation of the bass frequency of a voice over time. And I'm thinking that's the auto-tune model. And this must be new, and I don't know where to get the files. They don't, like, they just have a sample, like, for testing, test files. So it's obvious. I don't think it's ready yet. But if it does become ready, I think that'd be cool. Have your AI singing to you. Okay, back to the program. So another request was the timeout, the save timeout for slower computers. I added that. And the whisper function, which that was very challenging. And the Applio API, I ran into another problem where it was not shutting down threads. Every time it accessed Applio, it would keep opening threads, and I just get zombie thread. So that's where I had to learn sub-processing. And because I realized when I ran it, I did testing, I ran it as a separate program, it would shut down properly. And I'm like, why is that? So when it runs in my main program, it just keeps creating all this extra junk, not shutting down. But when I run it separate, it shuts down properly. And I think I narrowed it down to the custom tkinter, this GUI. It runs this main loop, and you kind of need that. And this main loop takes priority in a lot of cases, and it won't let things shut down sometimes. I'm like, okay, I'll do sub-processing. I created a separate Python file to run the Applio worker, which there's the inputs, RVC mode and TTS mode, depending on whether or not you have this selected. That connects in through here, the Applio worker. So when it starts up, loads in all the packages, then it initializes, like, I guess they call it the top level variables, what the AI told me. So I have these as my top level, and then I guess my class, the GUI, is the next one below that, comes second, and then it runs the main loop after. And then I have, like, anything to do with button and sliders all at the bottom of the class for the GUI. Like, I'm probably gonna come back to this and, you know, remember all the things that I learned for future projects. It's cool to see. Like, I feel so proud of this. Like, I learned a lot. And I don't know if this is proper, but this is how I did it. I have a definition of a main loop. I also just want to quickly mention the whole reason I created this main loop in the first place actually was because I was getting recursion errors where I had functions executing functions within functions into, like, an infinite loop. So to prevent that, is the reason I created this whole main loop in the first place. So when it starts up with the start button, right here, I hit the start button. We're gonna start up the main loop in a thread, and otherwise the GUI is gonna freeze up. So I start the thread here within the start definition. And we go into the main loop, so then it'll goes up to here. Program comes down, checks if we're using Vosk or Whisper. And then I set these up as a multi-thread because now you can talk over top of the AI when it's replying back to you. You can just talk and it's going to accept your input over top of the AI, where before it wouldn't do that. And I really like that feature. I try to not have too many threads because it can get dangerous if you're not careful. So Vosk or Whisper, and I think I'll have to see what you guys think, but I think Whisper is a little bit better. But the Whisper models, you know, they say they're like 100 megabyte or 500 megabyte. But once you load them into your GPU, they double, they double or triple in size. And I don't understand that. So be aware of that. I don't think it's my code. I mean, if someone knows why that is. But they do run, I think, really good. And they have, like, I think it's like 99 languages or something. I added a drop-down box for some really common languages in here. But if you're using a different language, you're gonna have to change like some of these detected words, like in these lists. You would have to change those into your own language to have it to work optimally. I mean, it's pretty easy to do. Your Vosk model in here, and the Vosk model, you want to put that in the root folder, like that, with I guess whatever the name it came with is probably best. Select CPU or CUDA. If you're going to use CPU, you definitely want to use the tiny model. 100%. It's way slower. If you use CUDA, if you got a really nice graphics card, you could use a big model. If you got a lot of VRAM. The bigger models do, I think they do work a lot nicer at detecting what you're saying. For Whisper, in this case for Whisper. But not so much for Vosk. I just kind of stick with the small model for Vosk. It's pretty good. Your silence threshold. So when depending on your microphone, the gain, you'll have to adjust this to your own personal setup. The minimum silent chunks. So after you speak, it's gonna start detecting silent chunks, and that'll tell the program to accept what you just said. Otherwise, it won't know when you're stopping talking. We go up And it's so much more organized now. So, Parky, chill out, man. The way it's ordered in the main loop is now it's exactly the same as up here. It's so organized now, it's way better. So it runs through, gets settings first. These things it has to do first, even before that. Initialize the basic TTS, get the read file for the system message that tells LM Studio how to behave. So you can do a lot of cool things with that. It would be the system message. That's actually a tip I learned from another YouTuber. Let me remember his name. Ah, yes, I remember. I didn't have to check. It was Videotronic Maker. Videotronic Maker, I'm pretty sure. So I'll give him credit. I took that idea, the system message text file. It's a good idea. I liked it. You can set up how you want the AI to speak to you. So, like, you want, like, for role playing or whatever, it's like right now I told it to think that I'm a secret agent or something right now. I was drinking so much coffee making this. I gotta cut back. Coffee and coding go together. Okay, so we load in the settings. I have a bunch of try except functions here that check, make sure you didn't do something you're not supposed to, otherwise you get an error. It's gonna check your file path. So you want to put the Applio root folder here. I have it in CAI/Applio. Then it'll append the rest of it, the assets, audios. Those are the output folders and files. Then it checks to see if the WAV files are in there, because I need to know that the way I detect if a new file is created is through when it was last modified and the file size. So it needs to know the file size of what's in there already. And if the file's not in there, I already covered that. It's gonna create some blank files with no data that are just gonna look like WAV files, but they're not. They're actually text files. And they're just gonna get overwritten anyway once you run Applio. Another little check that I added in the GUI is this cool little validate numeric. So as you're typing in a text entry field, it's gonna make sure that you're typing in numbers or it won't do anything. It's a cool little piece of code right here. So then we get the file sizes, get the LM Studio settings, initialize that, initialize keywords, username, it's gonna grab the data from the entry fields. If TTS radio variable 1, that's text to speech. So these radio variables, it's gonna, yeah, so if you have RVC activated, it's gonna check these entry fields. If they're empty, it's gonna stop the program. Speech to text radio variables, so that'll be these two. Gonna set up the Vosk model with what you have entered in here. It's does more checks, making sure what you're entering is, make sure it's a float or an integer, whether it should have decimals or be a whole number. Then, so I'll show the whisper in a second. It'll run through whisper. Let me turn the music down a bit. Load up the model. Gonna check if CUDA is available. Like, you might have a Radeon card, then it wouldn't have that, so it would be unavailable. It's gonna load the Whisper model into either CPU memory or GPU memory right here. This is the transcribe bit here. And I had the same problem with, this is where Whisper was giving me a huge problem. When it would run this, it was starting another thread. I couldn't shut it down. And I'm not sure if that's because it's loaded something into the GPU or whatnot. So I actually tried to run it as a sub-process, and I created this Whisper transcribe, and I actually never ended up keeping this, although I left it in the files, wrote a little note there why I'm not using it. Also, there was another problem I want to quickly mention. When I was trying to get Whisper running in the sub-process, it actually would work just fine when I ran it in VS Code. But when I ran it in the virtual environment, it just wouldn't work. And I couldn't figure out why that was. So that's another reason why I ended up adding the Whisper code back into my main code. But I realized that thread that opens up, it actually doesn't interfere too much with the function of everything. It just keeps the one thread open, and it doesn't open more and more. So it's just when I hit stop, it doesn't actually shut it down, and it kind of bugs me a little bit, but I want to get this thing finished sooner than later. Added in some counters just so the console is going to be displaying a lot of information while it's running. Where is it? Here we go. So you can kind of get an idea what's happening if you keep the console open. The stream rate, these buffer sizes, you have to keep the same size or you get buffer overflow error. What else? Yeah, so there's a thing called VADS, or VAD, and it's voice activity detection. And it seemed like Whisper didn't have that built in at first, and I was talking to the AI model, and it hadn't mentioned that to me. So I actually learned how to kind of program in a VAD without using like a pre-built one, so it's kind of interesting, like what I learned to do. It seems, and I know it seems really complicated, but when you're looking at the whole thing, it's actually really simple. If you're starting to learn programming, it's all just simple little rules. Like when you look at each little section of code, it's simple. But when you look at the whole thing, it looks confusing and complicated. But you just don't look at it like that. So the silence I created this, we check the average volume of the chunk of audio using NumPy. So we get the average volume. I update this value here with the average volume so you can see through your own system. And then the average volume, if it's greater than the silence threshold, which is here, so you're talking, it's gonna add data to frames, the frames variable. Else, when you stop talking and it's below the silence threshold, it's gonna add +1 to silent chunks. I hope you guys, my bird's not being too loud. Sparky. Yes, you're a good bird. It's gonna add +1 to silent chunks. Oh, hold on. My bird was being extremely loud for a bit there. So add +1 to silent chunks. Once it's greater than the minimum, which you can set right here, it'll accept the data and convert it to float 32. Then it'll run the transcribe, which is right up here, the transcribe process. And then it will modify the text string. And then it does some error correcting and it checks the string. So I have it set up for Alfred. If there's misheard words that are similar to Alfred and it's thinking you're trying to say that, it'll just auto-correct it to Alfred. And then same thing with wake word. For whatever reason, it struggled really bad to detect wake word or whatever. Could be this because it's a tiny model, it's less accurate. And then noise words, so just random garbage that gets transcribed. It's just gonna convert it back to nothing. And since this is running as a threaded process, I came up with this solution. Sparky, chill out. Sparky, chill out. Maybe if he sits over here. There we go. It might not echo into the mic as much. There you go. He's distracted with his reflection. There we go. Got him. Okay. Yeah. Actually, having mirrors for your bird is not very healthy. I generally don't let him look at himself too much. It's actually, I think it can be bad for them. So, okay, I came up with the solution. Since it's multi-threaded, I have to make sure that it doesn't just constantly be feeding variables into the input. So I created a loop. So it'll hold the input in a loop until it's accepted with a flag. So hold input equal true. Now it's gonna keep looping here with your whatever you told until otherwise. And that actually worked really well, and you can talk over top of them now. So in wake word, comes into here. Generally, I have to have it in the threaded whisper listen. It only makes hold input true. And all the functions in the main loop are going to be telling it false. So if the hold input is true, checks first, then it will take the audio and put it into the wake word text. And then it's gonna, check to see if it's actually the keyword. This worked really well. Then it'll go to your input. After it wakes up, it'll check what do you want to say to him. So it'll take that in, what you said to him. Then it goes to confirm. Did you say that? Because if it misinterprets you, you need to know if it misinterpreted you. So then, did you say that? Yes, I said that. Input check. Now it's gonna see if you sent any commands to access the features or shut the program down. Check the time, date, notes. If you weren't accessing any of the features, finally it'll return LM Studio API. And that will go in. If you look back in the main loop, every time main equals a function, it'll run that function. And when I say return that string, it returns that string into main. And now it'll check, does main equal LM Studio API? Oh, it does. Now we're gonna start this threaded process, the stop listener. And this is gonna be threaded so it doesn't hold up any other parts of the program. It's running separate. And it's gonna listen for your stop command. So if the program is generating a response that's taking way too long or something weird is going on, you can command it to stop. And it should work. Then we'll run, then it'll go into the API, LM Studio API. It'll check your settings, make sure, is it running? Is chat history on? Are you using the new stream function? And did you say stop? And voice stop's 0, so stop was never said. Gonna run through chat history off, streaming on, chat history on, streaming on. And these chunks of code were, I kind of found them in here. LM Studio, they included examples here how to interact. So before I was using the AI assistant and there's no chat history. Or sorry, this is the one that is the chat history. This one is the one that I was using before, and it wouldn't remember your chat history because the messages is new, equals this every time. It's always new. But in this one, it creates a history variable. Messages equals a history variable. It runs a loop. And this is where I learned about the streaming function. And I thought, that's cool. I could actually have the program replying back to you even faster at almost the same speed as LM Studio. So I was like, that's pretty cool. And that's why it took it longer, because I had to figure out how to implement that. Because this is running in a loop now, whereas before it wouldn't. It would just run it once and wait. So I learned how they're using this for loop, and it appends the data plus equal. Each chunk gets added into the new message, and then the new message gets added to the history and saved, and now you have chat history. And I made sure that you guys had chat history. That's like, I have to have that. After this completes, whether or not you're using the basic Windows TTS, it'll go into here. And if you're using the stream function, it's only going to use the basic one, because Applio, it has to render. It wouldn't work with Applio. It's just how it is. If you're using stream, it won't even go into this function. If stream is off, it will go into this function. It checks if you said stop, you can interrupt it. And same, you should be able to interrupt the stream also. And then, so if you have Applio selected, it will start the sub process, my Applio worker, which uses the G-Radio client. Right here, I just double check the file size again in the modified. Then I grab the model's response from LM Studio. I clean it up, get rid of some of the characters that are not needed. And then I start the sub process. And these are the variables. This is how I feed the variables into the sub process, which is cool. Each one of these can corresponds to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And in here, this is how it gets the variables. System.arg argument variable 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then the folders, the auto tune setting, I have to take the string and convert it. Go play with your skateboard. What's this? He gets so loud, like he's very chatty. I think the male birds are apparently way more chatty than the female birds. Yes, Sparky, you're a good bird. I have to convert the... So the sub-process thing is weird. I think it prefers strings to be sent in. So you send in these string variables, but this one I have to convert it back to I think it's a bool, true and false. And if anyone figures out how to or where to get these F0 files, I think you plug the file in right here, and then you have auto-tune singing. You can have a singing AI. That would be funny. That would be pretty cool too. We start the sub process. Gonna wait for the process to totally complete. And I found this in the documents or in the files of Applio, and it looks like these are more variables that you might be able to put in here, and you can make Applio do way more stuff. Chorus, distortion, gain. There's a lot there. I wanted maybe version 3 or something. I don't know about that. We'll see. That's a lot of stuff. And it runs through, then after this bit, I think the program shuts down, and this way, yes, Sparky. I think he just really wants to be in the video. He wants He wants you guys to hear him. Yes, Sparky. Birds are cool. I love them. They're way smarter than you think. There's times when they're kind of like in their own little world, but then sometimes when they're paying attention, they're like, animals have like this intuition, like dogs, I guess all animals. But there's moments where my bird he just knows things, and I'm like, it's kind of trippy. I lost my hat one day, and I'm just thinking in my head. I'm like thinking about where is it, and he flies over and lands on it. And I'm just like, it's trippy. Okay, we run the worker finishes, goes back into playing. Now we're gonna check to see if the file's been modified by checking the file date. So we use OS path get M time, modified time. So as soon as that changes, it goes, okay, Applio is saving the file now. But the file's not totally saved. It has to read in the data, but I checked the file size. Now it goes into waiting for file to save, and it goes into a loop, checking the file size over and over until the file size is until the file sizes are the same. Alright, sorry about that. I had to put him to bed. Sometimes he gets upset for no reason. It's birds, I guess. Okay, so we check the file sizes right here. If the file's saved, then the file sizes are the same. Then we go down to in here. I create a definition to play the audio, and I ran into more problems here. And when I originally thought I was finished, this was one of the first big problems I encountered. And I wouldn't even have like all these nice features if it wasn't for encountering these hurdles. It pays off when you work through them. In here, I had a Python package called Librosa, and it was used to check the duration of the file that was outputted from Applio. And also, when I was installing Librosa to the virtual environment, it's actually such an old package. It's from 2015. I had so much compatibility issues with it that I had to go through like 5 or 6 different packages, like other ones, and they didn't work until finally I tried Soundfile, and it was the thing that worked. So sometimes I test things in VS Code, it works, but then when I set up the virtual environment, which is what you guys are probably going to use, and it doesn't work. And anyways, I thought I'd mention that a little bit because I wanted to be able to, like, if you don't have something running while it plays back, your program will just stop. But also, it's a way to see how long the file is and whether or not you want to like listen to the whole entire thing. You'll be able to see in the console how long the file is. It could be like, what if it was 10 minutes and you're like, I don't want to listen to all that. And then you can tell it to stop, but you'll be able to see how long the file is, and it has a counter, so when the file is done playing, it reaches the end of the duration, then it knows to move on to the next section. So finishes playing, goes to delete the Applio temp folder. And this was annoying. It didn't do this, I don't think. It did it when I wasn't using the Applio API, but when you use the API, it creates these temporary files and, you know, like your users, app data, local or whatever, temp, then gradio. I had to create a thing to delete those files, because I tried to figure out how to avoid it from making them in the first place, but it wasn't clear how to do that. I tried, so instead I opted out to just have them deleted every time. Otherwise, you'd be like filling up data in your temp folder, and it's just a bunch of audio files, so I made sure that those got deleted. Then, you know, here would be the features. And if you wanted a feature that you wanted to add in yourself, you can add it in right here. The open close app, taking notes, checking the time. So you would add your function in right here with a new feature you wanted. And then you would make sure you add it into the main loop here. And also, but yeah, in the input check. So that's how it knows to open it. So in the input check, when it checks what you said, I said check the time. It now returns time date string to the main loop. It'll go into main, and now it'll go, if main equals time date, we're gonna run time date function. That's how you would add in your own features for your voice assistant. And that's pretty much it. Setting up your default settings in here if you wanted it to always load a certain particular way. I think that's enough about the code. And so you got your language, the auto-tune, pitch, save file timeout, GUI scale, you can make it bigger or smaller now. And this kind of cool little extra thing I added in quickly at the end, you can copy and paste text into here. But be warned, like how before I said it only stops after there's a period. Like if you try to interrupt it, it'll only interrupt it after periods or commas. I think in this case it might only be periods. So under here, this is the code for the playback right here, and where it modifies the string. I do not modify commas. It's easy to add that in. I only split it at periods, so you can only interrupt it at periods. and then it does a for loop and plays it back to you. So if I play it, or stays.
Voice 2. You should try Edge TTS and Faster Whisper. I'm wondering if you can do it locally or get something of that quality locally with something different. I use the Sonya voice for Edge TTS. It seems the most realistic IMO. You should try Edge TTS and Faster Whisper. I'm wondering if you can do it locally or get something of that quality locally with something different.
It has to wait till there's a period, then it stops.
Swaswaswaswaswasoy.
It's fun messing around with that thing. Okay, so I have this voice model plugged in here, and for reasons of copyright, I mean, it could be trained on anything for all I know. I'm not gonna say what voice that is. I'm gonna modify the pitch. Man, I hate copyright laws. I mean, you can technically get away with stuff. It's kind of a gray area. You shouldn't really do it. But I can just say this is some old guy. I modify the pitch so it won't even sound like technically, I don't think you can copyright a voice. There's arguments. There's all these arguments for it. But when it comes to characters or phrases that a character says from famous movies and or shows, it's a more dangerous area to be messing around with. Like, if you're going to be using this on YouTube, just be careful what voices you're using and whether or not you're actually saying what that voice is. Because if you say this is that character, then you're gonna get you're gonna get in trouble. But if you say this is just I hate it. I think, like, with AI and in the future, eventually we're gonna move into a society that's not gonna really care about copyrights anymore. Like, I think eventually civilization is gonna move into a world where money might not be a thing someday. But we're not there yet, so we have to play by these rules. Anyways.
Initializing.
Bring up the console. The Whisper TTS is pretty good. Alfred. So I think the problem I'm having here is I think my silence threshold is too high. I'm gonna lower it.
Initializing.
Alfred.
Hi, Mushy King.
Tell me some jokes as a fictional character who is a wise old creature that says everything backwards.
Did you say, tell me some joke as a fictional character who is a wise old creature that says everything backwards?
That was the problem.
Did you say, tell me some joke as a fictional character who is a wise old creature that says everything backwards?
Okay, there. It detected the word correct in my phrase, and that's why it accepted that. So,
Speaking in reverse. Live in darkness, I do. Laughter, I shall attempt to bring forth. Joke, I have prepared for thee, young one. Why did the banana go to the doctor? Pausing for dramatic effect. Not a doctor. See, it went to. The reason, I shall now reveal. Peeling, it was having trouble with. Dales, its peeling did. Sighing, frustrating. Life can be, but smile, you must.
Let's see. I should have turned chat history on.
Initializing.
Alfred,
Hi, Mushy King.
tell me a joke.
Did you say, tell me a joke?
Yes.
Yes or no, Mushy King?
Good morning, Mushy. Here's one for you. Why did the spy bring a ladder with him on his mission? Because he wanted to take his espionage to new heights. Haha, I hope that one made you smile, sir. Now, shall we discuss your briefing for the day?
Tell me another one.
Did you say, and tell me another one?
Yes. I get this error in Applio, but it's not really a problem. It still works. Something to do
Mushy,
with
here's another
asynchro.
one. Why did the secret agent quit his job? Because he was fed up with all the specifics. Wow, I hope that one made you chuckle, sir. Now, if you're ready to move on from the jokes, your briefing is waiting for you in the secure room. Shall I escort you there, Mushy?
Read me a short poem about all the Mushy King's journey into the Mushroom Kingdom and becoming
I'm listening.
great.
Did you say, read me a short poem about all the Mushy King's journey into the Mushroom Kingdom becoming great?
Yes.
Mushy, here's a short poem just for you. In the land of spores and fungal might, a young Mushy King took flight. He ventured forth with heart so bold into the Mushroom Kingdom, tales to be told. With every step, he grew in fame. His bravery and honor burned him a name. He fought the fungi fiends and saved the day, and became the great Mushroom King in a most heroic way. His people cheered, his legend grew. Mushy's name etched forever true. In the annals of time, his tale will shine.
Stop.
The shining star in the kingdom's shrine. I
Stop.
hope you enjoyed it, Mushy. Now, shall I bring your briefing and mission
Stop.
details to the secure room?
Had trouble detecting that.
Did you
It
say,
could be
by
'cause I have
Chinatry
a
and trouble?
fan- The background noises can mess with it. And I'm talking
Sorry,
far
didn't
away
catch
from
that.
my microphone
Sorry,
is right
didn't
over
catch
here,
that.
so
Sorry, didn't catch that.
it's kind of far.
Sorry, didn't catch that. Sorry, didn't catch that.
No,
Awaiting confirmation, Mushy King.
no.
Okay, say again.
Show you this the stream mode.
Initializing.
Alfred,
Hi, Mushy King.
tell me 5 wise quotes.
Did you say, tell me 5 wise folks?
No.
Sorry, didn't catch that.
No. No.
Okay, say again.
Tell me 5 wise quotes.
Did you say, tell me 5 wise quotes?
Yes.
Mushy. Here are 5 wise quotes for you. 1.
The response is so
The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Nelson Mandela. 2. Courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the judgment that something else is more important than fear. The brave may not live forever, but the cautious do not live at all. Ambrose Redmoon. 3. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy. Martin Luther King Jr. 4. You can't start the next chapter of your life if you keep rereading the last one. Unknown, but wise nonetheless. Mushy. 5. A hero is not a person who has achieved something great, but someone who has done something for others. Anonymous. I hope these quotes inspire and guide you on your mission. Mushy.
I like
Now,
those quotes.
Shall I bring you a cup of coffee to go with your briefing?
I just ran out of my coffee.
Did you say, I just ran out of my coffee?
Yes.
Mushy. No coffee is a dire situation indeed. Don't worry. I'll have a fresh pot brewed for you in the secure room. It's a special blend, infused with the finest Arabica beans and a hint of secrecy, just like your mission. Mushy. I'll bring it right to you, along with your briefing and any other necessary equipment. Would you like me to also fetch some cream or sugar?
Alright, I think that's the end of the video. I hope you guys really enjoy this project like I did. I really thought this is a cool idea that would help people. I think this could be used even like maybe kids might not have to go to lower grades of school. Like if you're too busy, you could just put a headset on your kid and the AI could just help them with their homework. You can talk to the voice assistant. And this thing is offline, so you manage it all yourself, you check the logs or whatever, just throw a headset on your kid and they'd probably be so smart. Alright, this video's gone on way longer than I intended. Links will be in the description below. If you like and subscribe, I'll be extremely grateful. It really helps my channel grow to do bigger and better things. I appreciate each and every one of you for watching. Stay creative and have a nice day. Peace.